of friends from diverse backgrounds. There was a retired professor from IIT Delhi, a Gandhian educationist, a serving IAS officer, a banker, and a public. What brought these different people together was a common passion for Indian heritage. Their aspirations formed the objectives of THT to document and to help understand, appreciate, disseminate, and celebrate various aspects of India's wonderful heritage. Towards this, we organize monthly heritage talks where we offer a platform for the expert and the well-informed enthusiast alike to share their knowledge on a wide range of topics: history, archaeology, epigraphy, numismatics, art, temple architecture, and so on. We conduct workshops for heritage lovers who want to take their interest to the next level of understanding and appreciation. These include how to see a temple, or house art as we call it, the Mallai study tour, a course on Pallava Grantham, and so on. During Chennai's famous music season or Kacheri season, we conduct a Pechu Kacheri, that is a concert of talks. This is a 2-day seminar that takes an in-depth look at a chosen theme of history or heritage. Another popular THT initiative is the annual Site Seminar, a week-long visit to places of historical importance, where every participant is expected to be both a student and a teacher of other participants. Tamil Heritage Trust has also instituted THT Professor Swaminathan Heritage Award to recognize individuals who do significant work in deepening our knowledge of our heritage and widening the audience for heritage appreciation. With this Indology festival, we at THT want to celebrate not just India's culture and cultural artifacts, but also the scholars who study them. With popular interest in our heritage growing rapidly every day, so does the need for scholarship in Indic subjects across multiple disciplines. This festival is our humble attempt to bring experts from across the world to the heritage-loving public, and equally to bring a heritage-loving general audience to the experts in the exclusive world of academia across the world. On behalf of Tamil Heritage Trust, I would like to express our deep gratitude to all the speakers who have so readily accepted our invitation to speak at this event. In the 7 days from November 30th to December 6th, we will have the opportunity to listen to scholars on a wide range of topics and themes. The eclectic collection of themes is by design. We want our audiences to savor the taste of a sumptuous menu of ideas from many subjects. So we have included prehistory, early history, mathematics, art, architecture among the topics. We also have a session on heritage conservation and a panel discussion on heritage communication. The program is designed wherever it's been possible to cross-fertilize ideas between scholars working in India and those who have been specializing in the Indian continent in academia abroad. In addition, THTIndoFest2020 features contests that aim to marry the interest in heritage with a passion for writing, blogging, or making videos. We've been receiving entries for these contests, and the winners will be announced later in the week. To give you a flavor of the daily program agenda, every day there will be 2 talks by speakers starting at 7 p.m. The talks will be followed by a discussion moderated by the program chair. The speakers will then take questions from the audience. We request the audience to type in their questions in the chat box of YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all set for a week-long feast of ideas and insights on Indology. We sincerely hope you enjoy the festival. Before I hand you over to the program chair of the day, it's my pleasure to introduce him to you. Rangarathnam Gopu holds an MS in computer science from the Texas A&M University, USA. He then worked in the US, the software engineering, mostly with Microsoft in Seattle. On his return to India, his interest turned to history and heritage, including the history of science and technology. Gopu lectures on these and other topics at various fora. He writes for publications like The Week, The New Indian Express, and Swarajya. He conducts courses on Pallava Grantham, Indian astronomy, and Indian mathematics. He leads study tours to Mamallapuram, Kanchipuram, and some of the special galleries of the Egmore Museum. In 2016, Gopu was conferred the Vedavalli Memorial Award for his services to Indian culture. Gopu is a co-founder of the Varahamihira Science Forum. I now hand you over to the program chair, Rangarathnam Gopu.
Vanakkam. Namaskaram, good evening or good morning, depending on your geography. Welcome to the Tamil Heritage Trust Indology Festival of 2020. This is an experimental attempt. Tamil Heritage has regularly held what is called Pechu Kacheris. This time we are branching off into a festival, not on just a particular theme, but on Indology as an overall theme. Today's theme is Indology, Priorities and Pathways. Indology for a long time, like most other fields like archaeology or art history or numismatics or any of the specializations, has been confined mostly to an academic setting with professionals in the field and amateurs exchanging views in confined fora and journals of limited circulation. But recently, with the arrival of social media, this has changed dramatically. A large number of people have expressed interest in their past and continue to express curiosity and a deep desire to learn more about Indology at the level of a discourse that usually has been confined to professionals and almost professional amateurs. This social media has brought strife and severe dissent. Even academia has had severe conflicts of opinion. The spectrum of political and social perspective has dramatically influenced the kind of Indology or the kind of archaeology, the kind of research that we do out of past. Now with social media, with millions of people following, millions of people writing, tweeting, blogging, taking videos and sharing things, this acquired a very large dimension. So what should the priority of society be? What pathways do we have to take in the future to explore and understand our past? That is kind of the logic behind this particular conference. And to form an Indology society. 100 years back, the English, under the admirable stewardship of Sir William Jones, founded the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal and gave to Europe and also to India a large recount of interesting things about India that was not known before. One of the moving spirits behind this conference a few years back, Time magazine identified him as one of the 100 most influential people. One of his services, the government of India bestowed upon him the Padmabhushan. But Dr. Ramachandran's expertise is not confined, interest is not confined entirely to the field of medicine, biology, and neuroscience. He has a deep interest in archaeology and Indology. In fact, he's confined in me in one particular few private conversations and to the general public that if he had not become a doctor, he would have become an archaeologist. And he's the irresistible spirit who inspired this particular conference. Dr. Ramachandran, 2 years back, in an address to the Tamil Heritage Trust, said there are two people he admires, William Jones and Swaminathan. Swaminathan is the founder of Tamil Heritage Trust, and we'll meet him later. Why these two people? Obviously, because of their significant contributions to Indology. And Dr. Ramachandran clearly feels that Tamil Heritage Society Trust today is the organization that can take Indology to a different level, with perhaps an attempt to balance the extremes either on the left or on the right, and to have an unbiased look into Indology towards the future. He's got, besides his talks on neurology and medicine, which are quite famous, he's also given talks about art and the brain. He's in fact come up with something that he calls the 7 laws of art. He has given public lectures on this, including at the Tamil Heritage Trust several years back. And he uses principles that we have learned from biology, from medicine, from the various sciences, from physics and so on, to illustrate that particular point. One of the things that he talks about is why a Chola bronze appears beautiful. Artists generally don't go into the why of beauty, but a scientist who looks at why a brain perceives art as beautiful, does explore this possibility. And so he's got several concepts, some of the 7 laws of art that he listed. It goes into that particular aspect of it. Now, not only it talks about why a Chola bronze is beautiful, he also talks about various art and whether art is something or beauty is something that only the human mind perceives, or do animal minds and other things. For example, flowers evolved to attract butterflies, not human beings, but they appeal to both of us. And so on this continued art, he talks about things like cartoons, and he says, why does a cartoon of Nixon look more like Nixon than Nixon himself? And it is this perspective that he brings as a neurologist, as a person who's interested in art and Indology, to this conference. 3-4 years back, he proposed the Tamil Heritage Trust consider turning itself into an Indology society or boost an Indology society. And this year's Indology Festival is his brainchild, along with Professor Swaminathan, who you see in the picture. We had a conference where he set this up. And earlier this year in Pune at the Indian Science Fest on AI and neuroscience, he told a very large audience of over 1,000 people, including 50-60 scholars from across the stage, that we are launching an Indology festival. And in spite of the corona lockdown, we have managed to put together this particular festival. And he'll be one of the 2 speakers today. Dr. Nagaswamy was the director of the Tamil Nadu Archaeology Department when it was founded in the 1960s. He was later Vice Chancellor of the Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati Vishwavidyapeeth in Kanchipuram, Nagareshu Kanchi, for those who have not heard of it, a town in Tamil Nadu, which was the capital of the Pallava kingdom. He was also the founder of the Chidambaram Natyanjali Festival. He has written several dance dramas about Rajaraja Chola, Rajendra Chola, the Saivite scholars and poets like Appar, Jnanasambandar. He is a polymath, a person of multiple interests and multiple accomplishments. More professionally, of course, he was an archaeologist, an epigraphist. He's a historian. He's written several books on history, an author, a playwright, musicologist, you could call him, a polymath in several dimensions. He was also awarded the Padmabhushan by the government of India very recently. And even earlier, he was recognized by the government of Tamil Nadu with the Kalaimamani Award. If there is a person who could be called the paterfamilias of archaeology and perhaps even Indology in Tamil Nadu, it would be none other than Dr. Nagaswamy. I think there is no more fitting person to start off this conference with a lecture. These are some of his books. Roman Karur. Karur is a town in Tamil Nadu, which was the capital of the Chera kingdom 2000 years back in the Sangam era. Imagine writing a book titled Roman Karur. He has also written books about studies in ancient Tamil law and society, a book called Yavarum Kelir, a study of Sangam poetry and what it said about contemporary society. Kalaichal Vangal, Vishnu temples of Kanchipuram, international. He has given an enormous number of presentations across the world on several subjects, far beyond his primary area of specialization. In tribute to his contributions, in 2014, the Tamil Heritage Trust conducted a 5-day lecture kacheri, a series of lectures, culminating in a lecture by Dr. Nagaswamy himself on the Chola paintings of Tanjavur, built by the Rajaraja Chola and his artisans. And this covered this Pecha Kacheri covered the life and works of Dr. Nagaswamy, and it was narrated by most of the students that he trained in archaeology in the Tamil Nadu Archaeology Department. The standard picture of Nagaswamy that you could have, a man who is exploring temples and reading an inscription, which is somewhat, that's one of those pictures. The remarkable thing about this picture is that he's 75 and has climbed up the ladder and is trying to read an inscription on the wall of a temple. This is the picture of a regular archaeologist, perhaps. But Dr. Nagaswamy, as he said, has multiple perspectives, multiple characteristics to him. He's a polymath. As a youngster, he learned to play the harmonium. He's performed on the stage. That is him on the harmonium. This is him showing off his yoga skills and his 6-pack, 8-pack abs before Prime Minister Modi made this popular. And this is an entirely different dimension. His service as an aeroplane mechanic in the long past, when he is in the prime of his youth. So you can see, when we say polymath, we are not kidding. What more suitable person could there be to kick this off with a talk titled Gods in Coins? Coins are a subject of archaeology, of numismatics, studied for the content of the coins, the inscriptions, and the pictures. But Nagaswamy goes past that to try to explain the socio-political and economic consequences of the coins, what they mean to the public, what they mean to the kings who ruled, and what they tell us about the society of that time. So without much further ado, it is the honor and privilege of Tamil Heritage Trust to present Dr. Nagaswamy, and I hope you have a pleasant evening with us today.
Friends, I want to thank the Tamil Heritage Group for giving me this opportunity to explain a new approach to the study of coins. Now, generally, study of coins is called numismatics, and most scholars, they study quite interestingly the king who issued the coin, the metal, the legend on it, and approximately when it was issued, and probably a few more points, whether it is a gold coin or silver coin or a copper coin, and so on. But this approach is the coins give not only the value of the numismatic science, but we go beyond what each coin, where it was used, how it carried the culture from one region to another, and so on. So this is an approach that we need to consider to understand heritage. Now, for example, the great Vijayanagara ruler, Krishna Devaraya, he was a great devotee of Venkatachalapati, of Tirupati. He used to visit the temple very often. And on one occasion, he gifted a Navaratna Makara Torana for the god. But at that point of time, he issued something like a coin, which is called Dodda Varaha. Varaha was the usual coin, gold coin, that was used in those days. But this Dodda Varaha, which portrayed the Navaratna Torana and also Venkatesa on the coin. And this is not intended to be a legal tender as a coin, but it was a memorial coin which was distributed to scholars and poor people. So this is a religious offering. And we see similar aspects that are found in other coins also, which we will see. Before I take up the Western Asian coins, Greek coins, I want to bring to your notice a very important passage in Silappatikaram, where Amarar Tharukottam, Vel Yanai Kottam, பகல்வாயில் உச்சி கூட்டம், வெள்ளை நாகர்தம் கூட்டம், ஊர்கோட்டம், வேல் கோட்டம், வஜ்ர கோட்டம், புறம்பணையான் வாழ்கோட்டம். All these are the temples. These were the deities, symbols that was worshipped in the beginning of the 1st, 2nd century AD in Tamil Nadu. Amarardhar Kottam is Kalpavruksha portrayed on coins we are going to see. Kalpavruksha. Amarar Tarukottam, Velyanai Kottam, Vellayanai, white elephant. White elephant is the vehicle of Indra, the king of the Devas. Then we have Vellai Nahardam Kottam. Vellai Nahar is Balrama. You know, we have Krishna and Balrama. And Balrama, temple for Balrama was available at Vellai Nagar. And Pahal Vayil Uchikidan Kottam. Pahal Vayil is daytime, midday. Uchikidan is Surya. So there are temples for Surya. Pahal Vayil Uchikidan Kottam. Ur Kottam, Grama Devata, temple for Grama Devata. Ur Kottam, Vel Kottam, for Muruga. Vel Kottam, Pahalvayil Chikran Kottam, Ur Kottam, Ver Kottam, Vajra Kottam. Vajra is the weapon of Indra. That was also worshipped in some temples as early as 1st, 2nd century in Tamil Nadu, also in other parts of India. This is an interesting reference because you have Vajra in a temple, whale in a temple, white elephant in a temple. Vellai Nagar. Vellai Nagar is sometimes Balram is portrayed as a snake. White snake, Vellai Nagar, Kottam. And Amarardhar Kottam, just symbol of this, what you call Kalpavruksha. Now, look at this map. India, you have the Indian this thing, and then you go to Punjab, western region, and from there you go to Afghanistan, Baluchistan, and then Bactria, and then you go to Indo-Greek kingdom, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, and then Alexandria. You come to Alexandria on the top of Africa. Near further down, there, down, yes. That's the place of Alexandria. In all these places, you have coins issued by the kings, Greek kings, who came to power after Alexander the Great. And in their coins, we have interesting information. But let us see, next. Look at this coin. This is a coin, copper coin in the collection of Krishnamurti, Dr. Krishnamurti, the editor of Dinamala. He was interested in collecting and publishing a lot of important coins. This is a very important coin found in Tamil Nadu. And you have an elephant. And before that you have a trident. And then there are 8 symbols above the elephant. The first one is a tree within Vedika. And then you have other 8 symbols which are called Ashtamangalas. We need not go into the details of these Ashtamangalas, but suffice to say that coins carry symbols of religious importance. And so, in ancient times, they looked at the coins as something to be worshipped, sacred, and you use the coin very carefully as a sacred object of handling. Next one. Now here you have other coins which are said to come from Karur in Tamil Nadu, which portray horses. Similarly, you have also some coins which come from Tirukkoilur region, which portray horses. So we look at it as a symbol, but probably they represent also the religious idea behind, and in some cases they are said to represent the Ashwamedha Yaga. The kings issued it as memorial coins. Next one. This is a coin said to come from Karur. I told you that Yanai Kota. So this symbol appearing in Chera coinage, this is a coin issued by the Cheras who have the capital at Karur. The portrayal of this is not as a royal symbol, but as the representative of Indra, whose vehicle is elephant. And so the king issued it. He compared himself to Indra, Devendra, and this is what this is our look at. Have a look at it. The elephant, which is an Indian elephant. Next one. So this, of course, bow and arrow is the symbol or royal symbol of the Chera king. But this must also be considered as a weapon of worship, object of worship. Bow and arrow. Next one. Another coin. Several such coins are found. Next one. It's also said to come from Karur. This portrays a lion. Lion was the vehicle of Durga, the giver of victory. So there is a figure on the other side of this image where you have a Durga standing by the Mahisha, and at the back you have the lion. So these are connected with religious symbols and give us about the religious faith of the people whom these coins were in circulation. Next. Here is a copper coin. And this has a small, at the back you have a bow and arrow and other symbols, but on the front side you have a kingly figure standing in between what we call Torana. We will see the significance of it when you go back to other coins in the Western Asian coins issued by the Greek rulers. Next one, please. Look at that. So far we have been thinking that the person who is represented on the right side is the portrait of the king, but it might probably represent the god or the Terra standing in between what looks like a costa or kotai, and by the side you have a tree, you see. Amarar Taru Kottam. Next. This is a Chera coin which was issued in imitation of the king, but here it's not a religious symbol, but it seems to be the portrait head of the king. Next. These are the ancient kingdoms, ancient countries that we should remember. India, East Asia, China, and then down south you come to Thailand, Cambodia, Burma, and all these places. There are coins, and these coins, some of them are found with the images of Hindu gods and goddesses and Buddhist gods and goddesses. Next one. Now, Persia, India, Persia, Arabia, and then you come to Egypt, where you have this Alexandria, established by Alexander the Great. Next. And this is another, this is called the Silk Route from down south of at the Black Sea. From there, the Mediterranean people used to go right through across to China. China was famous for its silk, and so this is called Silk Route. And along this route, you have many coins that were issued and found. And Buddhism went through from Himalayas to China and to West Asia, Central Asia, and so on, where you get very important inscriptions, manuscripts, and coins. Next. And this is said to represent Ashoka and his queens in the 3rd century panel. Next. Ashoka is a very important king in the history of the world. He initially was Kshatrapa in the northwestern frontier provinces, Gandhara and Takshashila and other places. And he, in his own records, say that he sent not army to conquer them, but appointed officers who are called the Mahamatras, who were sent to Bactria and other Western Asian countries which were ruled by Greek successors of Alexander. And he specifically gives the names of the country in Western Asia, which includes Yavana Raja, Yavana Bactria, and then Indo-Greek, and then you have this, what you call, now you call it Iraq and Iran, and Alexandria, which was established by Alexander the Great. And so there is already, even before Ashoka's time, in the time of Chandragupta Maurya, there were Greek ambassadors who were in the Pataliputra, and they established contact with not only on trade but also on religious and philosophical life. And here we have on the Buddha, Gandharan Buddha's head represented. So that was another source through which Ashoka sent his messengers. And so we have specific inscriptional reference to show the concept of dharma, which Ashoka calls as Paurani Prakriti, ancient tradition. He did not say that it is Buddha dharma, but ancient tradition of dharma, which was spread towards Western countries, towards Central Asia, towards Eastern China, and so on. Next. So this is the Ashokan pillar, where in his edicts he makes frequent references to his embassies going to Western Asia and other parts of the world. This is in Sanchi. Next. This is for the first time you get inscription, written material introduced, and there you have Dharma, Nietzsche, down south, Buddha, Buddhoid, and then Sakyamuni is Buddha. So written in a script called Brahmi. Brahmi was used in Punjab region and then all over India for writing Sanskrit inscriptions and also Prakrit inscriptions, but also in western part, beyond what you call Gandhara, Afghanistan, Balochistan and other places, Ashoka used what is called Karoshti. Brahmi inscription is written from left to right as we read now, but Karoshti is written from right to left, and it is Prakrit, it is in Prakrit inscription. What is amazing is that one of the earliest inscriptions of Ashoka found in Balochistan gives his Vedic, what are called Dharma, written in 3 different languages and 3 different scripts. One is Aramaic, the other one is Greek characters, and the third one is Kharoshthi and also Brahmi characters. So Ashoka has carried this dharma not only within India, within Bharat, to all the Western Asia, in the language of the people. And his script specifically shows that he adopted the script of the people so that his dharma is understood properly. Here is the inscription of Ashoka in 3 different scripts. And one is Aramaic, the other one is Greek, and the third one is Brahmi characters. Next. Now this is Ashoka's inscription. So for the first time, we get a written document in which specific reference is made. Yavana kings of up to Alexandria, he gives 5, 6 countries' name, the ruling kings who were all contemporary with him. And there you find Indian dharma, the Hindu dharma that has been propagated by Ashoka. Interestingly, in Sanchi, there is a big stupa. And in the stupa, there is an entrance which is called Torana. In the Torana, there is an inscription, 3rd century inscription, which says that anybody who tries to carry away or take away or damage this inscription or the sculptures, the panels, they will fall into the sin of destroying Acharya Kula. Acharya Kula is a dharma name mentioned in Apastamba Dharma Sutra. Apastamba mentions Gautama Sutras, and Gautama refers to Manu. Obviously, Manu was far earlier to even Buddha. In one inscription from Nagarjuna Kunda, Buddha is said to belong to Ikshwaku Kula. So, Ikshwaku learned dharma, Manu dharma, as Krishna says in his Bhagavad Gita. I gave this to Vivaswan, says Krishna. Vivaswan gave it to Manu. Manu gave it to Ikshwaku. And from then on, All the ruling kings adopted this dharma, and dharma is law, constitutional law, worldly life controlled by discipline. And that's what is mentioned in Manu Dharma, and that travels to Western Asia. Next. Now, this is a personality, a great personality of the world in 4th century, Alexander the Great. His ambition was to conquer India. He came with a tremendous force right up to Punjab region, Jhelum River, and after that, his commanders refused to cooperate with him. They said, we have left our country, our children, our family 6 years back, and so we cannot stay away. It is more than 6 or 7 years. We would like to turn back. So he turned, unfortunately, and he just reached right up to Punjab region, and then returned, and he went to Babylonia, where unfortunately he died. He could not reach the dream city which he has established in 321 BC, that is at Alexandria. Now, his coins have been found, and the tradition that you find next on this is the coin issued by Alexander the Great in 330 BC. And see on the obverse, his portrait is there in gold coin, and behind on the reverse you have the Greek representation of goddess. So the representation of gods and goddesses in coin is there even in the Greek tradition. But they portray their own goddesses. Next. Now we have Indo-Greek coins, Bactrian coin, Seleucid dynasty, Scythians, Sakas. Scythians are called the Sakas. And then we have Kushana coin. In all this, look at what happens. Next. You see from Punjab, west, you move on to the west, right up to beneath the Caspian Sea, and above Caspian Sea is Scythias, and then you move on to Black Sea and Macedonia, Alexandria. In all these places, you have Ashokan inscription imprinted by the Dharma Mahamatras he sent. And Central Asia, there is a place called Nia. There, nearly 50 manuscripts have been found. And the Silk Route, there was a Buddhist stupa. They were all Mahayana Buddhists. They have obviously gone from Kashmir to Nia, that is somewhere near and following it up, the other great Buddhist travelers have gone to China, and that went to Japan and other places. So Buddhist Dharma is also inspired by the Manu Dharma. And Buddha speaks about Dasa Paramita, 10 commands. The 10 commands are first mentioned in the constitution of by Manu. Dasakam Dharma Lakshanam. So this is carried right up to Japan, Korea, and Outer Mongolia, and then down south to Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Cambodia, and others. Now, look at this. This is a gold coin of Antiochus. He was the ruler of Bactria. Gold coin, early. His portrait is seen on upwards, and a goddess seated with carrying a bow and some object in the right hand. So in the early period of the 3rd century, you get the first coin. It still follows the Greek tradition. Next. But this is a mistake. It is said that it is from Karur region. Karur is said to have been by excavation in Mysore district. It's not so. But it is a very important coin of King Antiochus, who is mentioned specifically in Ashokan inscription. Antiochus Yona Raja. Next one. Next. This is another issue of the same Antiochus Yona Raja, 270 BC. Next. Next. And this is a very interesting coin of Demetrius, who lived in 3rd century or 2nd century BC. He wears a crown like an elephant's head. There is a temple in Kanchipuram called Vaikunta Perumal Temple, where a king, the king, Pallava king, Nandivarman, is said to have received a crown which is said to be in the form of an elephant. It seems there has been some influence, impact from that region. Next. Is another Demetrius coin, Bactria. The elephant. Right. You will see what is the significance of elephant. Next. Next. Here is another coin. Mainly, numismatic scholars, they say the square type of coins in Western Asia, they are all based on Indian tradition. Now, in this one, you see a lion standing where you have the Greek characters. And on the side, there is a goddess standing, and there is an inscription or legend, what we call legend, in Brahmi character, which reads Pantaleon. Next. Next. See this Bactrian coin. This was issued by Agathacleyasa, a very important king, Bactrian king, copying the portrait of Demetrius with the elephant crown. You have to remember this man, this Agathacleyasa, who has issued several varieties of coins. We will see them. 2nd century BC. This is one of it, 185 BC. Next. This one was issued by that king Agathacleyasa, who ruled between 185 and 170 BC. Look at this coin on the right. There is a standing personality in Greek attire holding a big chakra in his hand, chakradhari. And he holds a chanka in his right arm, vertical, holding it vertical. And there is an umbrella, royal umbrella on top. And to his right, from top to bottom, the letters read in Brahmi characters as Agathacleyasa, Agathacleyasa. In Brahmi, Brahmi inscriptions represent Sanskrit. You know that Gandharan region, is the place where Panini wrote his Panini Sanskrit. And so these Brahmi characters read in Sanskrit, Agathacleyasa. And this person portrays Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna. He looks like a Greek, like a big sword, chakradhari, chakra, and also the chanka in his right hand. And on the reverse, you see, the same thing, another portrait. It's not a portrait, it's the name of God, Balarama. He holds in his left hand a plow and right other symbols. And you have the Greek characters reading Agathacleyasa. So this is an extraordinary coin, silver coin. About 12 to 13 coins have been found in Afghanistan in 1970. And for the first time, you get to know that specifically Indian god and goddesses were portrayed in the Bactrian coins with one side Greek characters, Greek legend, the name of the king you issued, and on the other side the Indian letters, Brahmi characters, and more so what you call Kharosthi inscriptions. This coin somehow seems to have been restruck by some type of writing on the edge of it, you can see. So another issue of the same, Agathacleyas. So he has issued more than 2 issues of Vasudeva Krishna. Look at that beautiful Brahmi characters. Agathacleyasa, Kleyasa. Shahi has written it wrongly. But you have the chakra, the chanka, and lettering is in Brahmi character. This is in circulation in Balochistan and beyond in Bactria. Specific instance of coins having religious significance, the worship of gods and goddesses, and these were meant to be used by the common man in the region, which means the culture of India was imprinted in Bactrian region, Indo-Greek region. Next one. Look at this one. Here is a lion. We have seen lion is the vehicle of Durga. Durga is the giver of victory in war. And so, the Greek characters, Agathacleyasa, and on the right, you have a goddess standing there. That is Durga. There are 2 points that you need to note. In the left hand, you see there is a small bird-like thing on the left hand. You need to take it down. That one. And on the right, you have the name in Brahmi characters as Agathacleyasa. The goddess is Durga, and we know Devi Parvati in Kanchi Kailasnatha temple portrayed nearly 32 times. In all this, you see her playing with parrot, always on her left hand, or left side. Tam sukam kim sukam lalayanti parikridase, says the Sanskrit dhyana slokas. So here we have not only the goddess, but also her vehicle, but the characters are Greek characters and Indian characters. Next one. This is the close-up of the inscription found on these coins as Agathacleyasa. That is the one. Next. Next. There is another issue of the same. On the right, you have the lion standing with a Greek character. And right, you have the goddess standing, and you see the bird there, parrot, and the Brahmi characters giving the name of the king Agathacleyasa, 2nd century BC, early beginning of end of the 3rd century and beginning of the 2nd century. You have this coin of a Greek Bactrian ruler who has issued more than one issue of the same kind as so that much of popularity of Indian concept, Durga, her line, and the concept that Durga gives victory are all found there in these coins. Next one, please. Durga. Excellent, excellent Brahmi character. Kla, ik plus la, kla, ya, sa. Next one. Next. Now here is another coin coming from the same place. And on right, within the Vedika, you have a tree. I told you Amarar Tarukkotam. Here is Amarar Taru, which is worship. And then on the left, you have what is called the Meru mountain. Meru is the golden mountain, 3 peaks, 3 tiers of being supposed to be golden in nature, and beneath that you have Agathacleyasa. Next. Here just we have the elephant. This coin comes from beyond Balochistan, Bactria, Anti-Makas. Makha is also a king who is mentioned in Ashoka in his inscriptions, 2nd century BC. And so the elephant, but we are not able to see the inscription. The symbol is sufficient to show that it represents the kingly nature of the coin, like Indra's coin. Here we will come to another coin of Eucratides of Bactria, who ruled around 160 BC, the 2nd century BC, that is immediately after Ashoka. You have 2 warrior-like gods traveling on horseback, riding on horseback. We have a reference, Ta Ma Iruvarum in Tamil, Paribadal, says 2 Ashwini Devatas, they are always said to be in pairs, and they ride on horses and they carry medical plants in their hand. So we have 2 of these Ashwini Devatas who are referred to nearly 1,000 years before this coin in Euphrates river basis, where we have Hittite and Mitanni, those who entered into the contract that they will worship Mitra, they will worship Surya, they will worship Agni, Indra, and Nasatyas. That's a specific reference to Nasatyas, who are the twin gods who are supposed to bring medicines to that region. That is in 1323, supposed to have been issued in the Mitanni region, and that is in a old what you call tablet. Right? So here we have Nasatya, that is the Ashwini Devatas. Next. Here you have two other deities portrayed in the coin. The portrait of the king is there with what you call his Greek characters, his name, Eucratides, back to 160 BC. But you see these two gods, and then the same name written in Kharoshthi script. You find the Kharoshthi script all around, and this probably, in all probability, represents Rama and Lakshmana. Next. Another issue of the same coin. Around there, look at the hairstyle which Rama and Lakshmana used to be portrayed in other Indian tradition. This is the Kharoshthi inscription giving the name of Eucratides, Indo-Greek king in 170 BC. And the square form is derived from Indian, according to the scholars. Next. Here is another extraordinary issue of the same ruler, 170 BC, Eucratides. There is the goddess standing within what looks like a fort, inside the fort. Kottravai. Durga is the presiding deity of forts, and she is shown in between representation of fort. And on the other side, you have the Greek characters in the portrait of the king Eucratides, issued 170 BC. So here again we find dedication to the goddess. Next. What is important is that the name of the king Eucratides is also written in Prakrit, Maharaja Raja Rajadirajasa Yevukratidasa. So, Eucratides is translated as Yevukratidasa, so Maharaja and Rajadiraja in Prakrit. Next. This is another issue of the same thing. Again, on the back, you have the goddess and the portrait. Next. It reads Kharoshthi. It's a very important coin. Kavishya Nagara Devata. So Kavishya, Kavisa was a very famous town in ancient times. And just as we have Kanchi Puri Devata, Kamakshi, the Kanchi Puri Devata, the Kashi Vishweswara, and there you have Devi as the Nagara Devata. In Madurai, you have Meenakshi as a Nagara Devata. So here, you have Pushkalavati Devata. Peshawar had a Devata. The entire township is visualized as the goddess Durga, Kavishya. So here Kavishya is the tradition of glorifying, visualizing the town itself, the capital itself, as Devata, Nagara Devata. This is another extraordinary coin of Plato, the Bactrian king, Greek king, who ruled in the middle of the 2nd century BC. His portrait is there, beautiful portrait, lovely portrait. And on the left you see a seated king driving a chariot drawn by force. And around him we have the rays of the sun. So this represents Surya, also called Mitra, in early Vedic tradition. So this represents Surya. We have Surya, we have Durga, we have Krishna, we have Balrama. Now go on next. Yeah, the gods are not portrayed, but their vehicles are portrayed. On the right, you have the Indian elephant standing majestically. Beautiful portrayal of elephant on the coin. And on the left, you have bull, Nandi, vehicle of Shiva, Rudra Shiva. And you have the, what you call, Kharosthi inscription, giving the name next. Giving the name, no, go to the reading. Now this has a Greek on the right and on the obverse, and also on the left side you have reverse. Maharaja Apalatadasa Tratarasa, that is Apratihata. We have these titles used for Indian kings, Apratihata Sasanaha, like that. So this is the Prakrit title. Not only the symbol of the religious system, but also the name as Maharajadiraja. Trata is the protector. And on the right side you have the Greek. Next, please. Yeah, this is another anti-address. And you see, next you have the Maharajasa, Jayadratasa, Jayadharasa. He was Makhas were ruling in that region, and the Indo-Greek area. Next one. Here we have two. One is Ankusa, and the other is the elephant, Indian elephant. So you have Greek characters on the right, and Kharosthi inscription. Next, what is the next one? See, Maharajasa, Tratarasa, Minandarasa, Minander, Indo-Greek. He has issued the coin, bilingual coin, with a Prakrit title and name written in Kharosthi script. Next. Now here you have just symbol, chakra, and probably a bow and arrow. Next, Minanda. Here within chakra, Surya-like thing, inside you have a gada and bow and arrow, and the characters in Kharosthi script, and the portrait in what you call Greek characters. Portrait is not so good artistically as we have the other earlier coin, but the Kharosthi script is very clear, which gives the name. Next, Maharaja Dramikasa Zoilasa. His name is Zoilus, 130 BC. Next one, we see Maharajasa. The Dramila, see, Dharma is in Prakrit is turned into Dramila, Dramikasa. So we have the Tamil translated into Dramila in Prakrit and Sanskrit. Next one. Here is again the goddess, Indo-Greek. This is Agathacleyasa. Second, and you see the bird man clearly. She is seated on a chair, throne. Kharosthi inscription, Maharajasa, Tratarasa, Jira, Mikasa, Stratasa. Agathacleyasa's title, a long inscription in Kharosthi giving the Prakrit name of this Greek king. Next. This probably the riding elephant probably represents Indra, and the letter written there is Karoshti. Next, Greek portrait of the king and Karoshti. Next, and the inscription on the coin reads Maharaja Jayadharasa Antyalkidasa. So you see, the Greek name translated into Prakrit and written in Karoshti. Here is another coin and Antyalkidas Karoshti inscription. This is a very clear example of Antyalkidas seated on a throne. Very simple, but he has the elephant on his right to show that the king is like Devendra. Next. Now around that almost the 2nd century, 3rd century, and near Sanchi, there is a place where an ambassador from the Greek king has come to the central part of India and erected a pillar, stone pillar, with a Garuda on top. This is known as Garuda Stamba. His name is given Heliodorus. See, 113. It is still in position. It's nearly 2,200 years old. And you have beautiful writing in Brahmi characters. Next. Here again we have Helioclus. And this is again the same. You have this what you call Greek. Now bull represents Shiva and Devi. Read the reading. You also see Apradhihatasa. See here it is more correct. Philasinasa. Philonius. Maharajasa. You have on the one side is bull and the other side is the lion. Lion represents Durga. The bull represents Shiva. Next. Maharajasa Apratihadasa Philonisa. Here we have Minandar too. Minandar is a very famous name in Indian history. Look at that lion, beautiful seated. And in what we call the Chola kind, we find a tiger always seated. Very interesting. Here also you see the tiger or lion seated. The legend, Maharajasa, Dramikasa, Minandrasa. Next. Now this is said to be the coin of Apollodotus, Greek king, 1st century BC. And they located somewhere in Afghanistan. But probably this comes from Karur. You have several such representations in Karur. And this is your bow and arrow. And here you have the bull. Next. This is the most important coin that we have to notice. On the right side, you see the Kharoshthi inscription giving the name as Telepos is the name. There are two deities. One is sun. Behind his head you have the rays of the sun standing, and behind it is a goddess with the Chandra on it. So we think in Indian tradition, Chandra is a male, but there they seem to consider moon as a goddess. This happens sometimes. For example, in India, we call our rivers as goddesses. Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Kaveri. But the rivers are in Roman area. They are called as fathers. So sometimes this visualization takes a different line. But this is sun and the moon on the right. And the Kharoshthi inscription giving the name. But come on to the right. You have a king, a person who is portrayed right up to his waist in human form, holding flower, but beneath he hasn't got the legs, but without leg, it is shown as a flower-like, creeper-like. He is called Aruna. Aruna in Indian tradition. Aruna is the driver of the chariot of Surya, and that he is represented in the coin show that there was a great tradition of Surya worship, Mitra worship in that area. Next one. Look at the Maharajas, Kalandaranas, Telipasa, Telipos. Next. Bhadrasya, there is a coin of Bhadra, 15th century, 1500, 15, we see. Next. Bhadrasya, it is Bhadrasya, Maharajasya, Tratarasya, Bhadrasya, SSR, Bhadra SSR. Next. We come to the famous Kushana kings who were there from Scythian and Kushan kings. On the right side, we get the king standing and offering in an altar, something like Vedic altar. But for the first time, you get in the second century AD in gold coin, Buddha portrait in gold coin of Kushana king. Next. Now you can see that very close. Next. Another Kushana king coin, Buddha. Next. Next. Here is a coin of Vima cut pieces. He is shown seated and high seat, and on the reverse you see Shiva standing in front of a bull, Nandikeshwara, and you see the Triratna symbol beneath the right hand, and then you have the beautiful writing in the Kharoshthi giving the name of the king, Vima pieces. So all these coins carry the image of gods and goddesses as an object, obviously, of worship. So the coins had more sacred usage than we imagine that they were only for metal pieces. Next one. This is another Huishka coin. Next. Another Huishka coin with Shiva standing and the elephant rider obviously the Indra concept. Next. Look at this king, the god carrying Sula, Trisula, long Sula in front of the bull, Nandi. And we have the king offering with the Trisula in front, in an altar. Okay, next. Another issue of Vasudeva. Kushana king, Vasudeva. Next. One or two more coins I would like to show before I conclude. Now you have on one side the Mahameru, the hill-like thing, then probably the river, and you have a tree within a Vedi, Sattika, and is another religious symbol. And above you have the Three Ratna. Look at the Three Ratna, very often found in Buddhist context. Then we have the Kharashti inscription. Next, no Kharashti, Brahmi inscription. Next one. Here is very important. You see the goddess standing left, and in front of her is a deer standing erectly. Kariya Tirukkotu Kalaimiசை மேல் நின்றாயால், says Silappatikaram. Kalai, deer, is the vehicle of goddess Durga. So this is goddess Durga. On the right side you have the Brahmi characters. This is another issue. So several issues of Durga with the deer and all the religious symbols at the back. Finally, we come to the next. These are all, you can see the Meru and Sattika, lion, elephant. And last I would like to show good coin, gold coin. On the right side, the king stands before a Garuda. And on the left, Samrajya Lakshmi, who is portrayed on the seat. And you have his name written, that's the name written. And what all these represent? They represent the gods and goddesses. The king's portrait. And often, both the sides you have the gods and goddesses. The king himself is God in ancient times. So the portrait must be seen as representing the God on earth. And it is a symbol of the religious feeling, worship of divine, that is portrayed in the coin. And that carries the culture of the people of India towards the Western Asian kingdom. More than 30 to 40 such different issues, different kings, their coins have come, bilingual, and they reflect the travel of Indian culture, Indian tradition, Indian heritage towards the West. Wish you all the best.
Well, I'm honored and delighted to be here in Chennai, so to speak, in cyberspace. And I'm going to talk to you about the human brain and its functions. As you know, this is primarily a society concerned with Indology, history of India, art of India, architecture of India, science in India, mostly ancient India, not current politics, which we are deluged with every day in the newspapers. We don't need more of that. So, what can a neurologist tell you about India? I'm not a professional archaeologist, nor do I study Indology. So what am I doing in this conference? I was very not that interested in Indian history when I was in my teenage years in school, in Vidya Mandir and St. Paul's High School. We were just given to memorize all the dates in history by rote, mostly Henry VIII's wives and things like that. Not much of Indian history, very little. So I was raised on a diet of Western textbooks on Indian history. And I swallowed most of that, believed most of that. Of course, most of it is not true. It happens to be not true, right? Then I came to the United States, and then I was really casually, 2 or 3 things happened simultaneously. 2 or 3 events took place simultaneously. Then I came back to the United States. I was taking a flight back to India, and I read a book by John Key on India, called India Rediscovered, or India Discovered, something like that. It's an eye-opener. For the first time I saw India through the eyes of explorers, looking at this country for the first time with fresh eyes. It was very exciting to read about this great exploration, decipherment of ancient scripts, and all of that. And then I came and met Swaminathan, who's a professor, retired professor from IIT in Chennai, who studies Indology. His hobby is Indology. When I listened to him talking about various scripts and various ragas and all of that, and got very excited about this. And then thought, why should we not have a society like the Asiatic Society of Bengal? Jones was very famous for it. Created the Asiatic Society of Bengal in Calcutta, which flourished for a long time and gave birth to many decipherments. The antiquity of India, opened people's eyes to the antiquity of India. And the first historical landmarks, which were actually connected to absolute dates rather than relative dates. It's all very exciting, heady when I was reading it. So it became a passion. I don't know why it became a passion. The NRI disease, you go there and you discover your roots, so to speak. So then I embarked on doing a lot of reading about this, and I met a lot of young people interested in Indology, but not doing anything about it, except for a handful of people like Padri here and Gopu and a few others who are studying it seriously. And I read a couple of articles by them in Swaraj and other magazines that talk about their exploration of Indian archaeology. Wonderful thing about archaeology is even amateur, even to this day, an amateur can make contributions. Then we decided to start the Society of Indology and Indic Studies. About nearly 10 years ago, we talked about this. People were excited, but not doing anything about it. And this occasion arose when Padri and others, and Gopu and others, agreed to start this, decided to start. Very excited to hear it. And here we are, assembled here in Chennai, in visual, virtual space. So that's the beginning. So, what can I tell you about Indology? Not much, but I'm interested in neurology, how the brain works, how different parts of the brain are quasi-autonomous, doing different things, specialized for different functions. There are brain areas just for seeing faces, recognizing people's faces. You may think this is a very easy thing to do, recognizing faces, but in fact, you think of the thousands of faces you've seen in a lifetime. Yet I bring my brother here today for the first time I introduce you. You see him for 5 minutes, he goes away. Tomorrow you see him at the music academy, you say, oh, you're Ramachandran's brother. How do you've seen thousands of faces in a matter of milliseconds, you recognize my brother. So what we take to be effortless and easy, in fact, it requires an enormous amount of computational power to carry out. You still don't know how the brain does it. This is what I study. So seeing faces or reading manuscripts or thinking about God or all of this, what we call human nature, human consciousness. All of this arises from this lump of jelly sitting in your palm. You hold this lump of jelly in the palm of your hand, made up of 100 billion nerve cells, fundamental structural and functional units of the nervous system, and nerve cells. When you think of cells, you usually think of flat, tile-shaped things like the liver or skin. Nerve cells are highly specialized for communication. And either they are inhibitory or excitatory, meaning they excite the next cell or inhibit the next cell. They're connected at points of contact called synapses, that transfer of information occurs. Synapses can be on or off, can be inhibitory, can be excitatory. Based on this, somebody has figured out the number of possible brain states. Given there are something like 100 billion nerve cells in the brain, 100 billion nerve cells in the human brain. Number of brain states, permutation and combination of brain activity, exceeds the number of particles in the known universe. In any one human being, exceeds the number of particles in the known universe. How do you even begin to study this mysterious outcome? Let alone, how do you perceive a face or a banana or a laptop? Leave alone how you do abstract mathematics. Let alone how you do prime numbers. You know, one day we'll get to that. But now, simple things like seeing, how do you see? How you look at something, how do you identify it? Recognize it. We've also been interested in art, architecture. How art consists often not in reproducing an image out there in the world. If you reproduce it, you can do it with a $5 camera these days with your cell phone, costs nothing. But art involves not replicating something, but exaggerating, hyperbole, distortion, all manner of alterations in the image, depart from reality, to optimally titillate areas of your brain more adequately, more pointedly than you could with a realistic image. So it's not about realism. The English colonials who invaded India at that time, they didn't realize it. They didn't realize that art was not about realism. So you look at sculptures of Parvati, for example, in the temple, bronze statue of Parvati, in the Chola dynasty. You look at the famous Nataraja. They call Nataraja multi-armed monstrosity. So, Sir Birdwood, Sir Birdwood, supposedly an eminent historian of Indian art and craft, regarded the Nataraja icon as a multi-armed monstrosity, referring to multiple. He was not realizing that multiple arms are symbolic, represent multiple attributes of the divinity. And you could spend an hour talking about Nataraja, as Jimmer does, or Ananda Kumaraswamy does. Really poetry and poems. But I'm not going to talk about art today, given our time limitation. Instead, I'm going to switch gears and talk about math. So India has a great tradition in art, and everybody recognizes that, even though early Victorians didn't. They kept saying that the Parvati image was too distorted, hips were too big, waist was too narrow, bust was too big, not like a real woman. She looks unrealistic. The guys were primitive, they didn't know what a woman looks like. These are absolutely stupid. The Indian artists certainly knew what realism was. You go back to Delhi, you get the wonderful torso of the guy in terracotta, very realistic. You look at it. Even has a little bit of belly, punch. This is what real men look like, not the statue of David or statue of Moses. So what they're doing is trying to left behind from realism. By the time we go into medieval times, they said art is not about realism, it's about symbols. Symbolic descriptions of the external world. Accentuating certain aspects of the image. Creating a mood or rasa. That's what art is about. It's not about replicating something. The Indians were masters of this. Great dynasties of Indian art. Masters of this. Gupta, Chola, Pala, any of the dynasties. And so that's another talk, so I don't want to wander in that direction. So, point being, well recognized in art, but people don't know that much about Indian science, except it's scholars. In Indian math, which you're going to hear about from Badri and others here, we tried to invite Mandil Bhagavad, but he's busy at this time. So, the neurologist are studying the brain. What happens is when different parts of the brain are damaged, when small damage to a specific part of the brain, what you get is an across-the-board reduction, not an across-the-board reduction in all your mental capacities. You don't get a blunting of your mind when there's damage to a small part of the brain. What you like in Alzheimer's, you don't get a blunting. What you get is specific laws, highly selective laws with one specific function, other functions being preserved intact. This gives you some confidence in asserting that that part of the brain is somehow involved in mediating that function. Well, there are many examples of this. I can speak for 7 hours on this. You know, time limitation of 1 hour, a little bit over 1 hour. I'm going to keep it brief. One example is prosopagnosia, which means in the damage to the temporal lobe, medial inner surface of the temporal lobe, inside, tucked away inside the temporal lobe, the fusiform gyrus. You see that in the brain, picture of the brain, the frontal lobe, parietal frontal, occipital, temporal. Tucked away inside the temporal lobe is a structure called the fusiform gyrus. So in a peak. Fusiform gyrus is involved in, among other things, recognizing objects, also recognizing faces, and also in recognizing letters of the alphabet, numerals. So there's an arbitrary correspondence between some shape and some sound and some meaning. The fusiform gyrus seems to be involved. Faces are a prime example. If there's damage, the person will come to you, see the patient's fusiform gyrus damage, with face blindness, he will not recognize it. So I don't know who you are. You won't be his mother, his father. He comes in, he does not recognize you. Until you start talking, instantly he says, oh, that you're my mom. You don't look like I can't recognize you at all. You can see all the features. The prosopagnosis, you can see all the features. You're not blind. You can see the features, you can draw it, sketch it, everything. But what eludes him is the identity of the person he's looking at. Who is that person? Mother, father, child, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. That eludes him. So that brain circuit is involved in perception of faces alone. That's primary function of fusiform gyrus. And other things like shepherd and sheep. Different sheep faces are represented in fusiform gyrus. So it's not entirely innate, it's learned partly, but it's a module dedicated to learning about individual objects and their functions and their names and classifying. Now that's well known, but another far less well known syndrome. By the way, prosopagnosis, when he talks to you, he recognizes from his voice immediately. But when he sees you, he doesn't know it's you. When he looks in a mirror, he says, that doesn't look like me. He's a patient looking at his mirror and says, it doesn't look like me. But when I blink, it winks back, so it must be a mirror. He's not stupid, he's intelligent, he knows it's him, but he's got a brain damage. He's seeing, he can't properly recognize his own face. Another syndrome called Capgras syndrome is the exact converse. Capgras. These patients, I had a patient not long ago who came to see me. He says, you look at his mother and his father, and he says, his mother is an imposter, she's not his real mother. And he does not feel any warmth or any affection. Some strange woman pretending to be my mother's daughter. What's surprising about these delusions is highly selective nature. She's not mentally disturbed in any way, not psychotic, not mentally disturbed, not psychotic. But when it comes to his mother, he says that she is an imposter. She's not my mother. The very important thing about these delusions is that they are highly selective. So what's going on here? Now, the standard view of Capgras syndrome, the person is denying his mother is his mother, is that maybe the Freudian one. That is, all of us, when we're little babies, we have strong sexual attraction to our mothers. And according to Freud, I don't believe this, but according to Freud, as you grow up, the cortex develops, the higher thinking area of the brain, and inhibits this latent sexual urges towards your mother. Thank God for that, otherwise you'd be sexually attracted every time you see your mother. You're not. Thank God, because the cortex inhibits these irritable reflexes towards your mother. Now, then the blow comes to your head, bang, bang on your head, and the cortical inhibition is removed, and the latent sexual urges come flaming to the surface, and suddenly, inexplicably, you find yourself sexually turned on by your mother. So you said, this can't be my mother, it must be some other woman who looks like my mother. Very convoluted, strange description, characteristic of Freud, very ingenious but implausible. Now, so how do you reject the Freud information? First of all, the patient whom I saw said she not only thought it was an imposter, that her mother was an imposter, her pet poodle was an imposter. That dog is not Fifi. Some other dog pretending to be my pet poodle. Now you try to apply the Freudian equation here, it doesn't work. You have to say something about the latent bestiality in all humans, attracted unconsciously to the dog or something like that. Doesn't make any sense. Okay? So let's go away. So what causes the disease is something quite different. It turns out that your visual input in the eyeball is upside down, and then the nerve impulses are transmitted along the optic nerve to the visual cortex. There are 30 areas in the brain, 30, concerned with vision alone. Seeing movement, for seeing color, for seeing shape, for seeing depth. Different areas specialized, highly specialized for different aspects of vision. Okay? So the information then gets recognized. You put a label on it. This is a pig, this is a dog. And then the memory associated evoked by the image that you're looking at. This is my mailman who came the other day and delivered me the FedEx message. So a person not only has a name tag, but whole history, the trajectory in time, which is incorporated in your model of that person in your brain. Okay, so all that is fine. So what's going on here? Now, after you perceive the image, the message gets sent to a structure called the amygdala. Amygdala is involved in gauging the significance of what you're looking at. Not this is just a pig or a dog. Is it my dog? Is it a fierce dog? Is it a wolf? Is it my dean? Or is it some other person who's walking around? I shouldn't worry about. Is it a piece of wood I don't have to worry about? Is it a tiger I have to worry about? Is it a lion I have to worry about? So gauging the emotional significance of what you're looking at, the amygdala. So the fusiform gyrus processes everything, visual objects, sends a message to the amygdala. Amygdala then says, this is important, pay attention. And you pay attention. Kicks you in the butt, makes you pay attention. Messages cascade down from there to the autonomic nervous system, make you sweat in anticipation of energy, dissipation of heat for exertion of muscular effort, chasing a prey, chasing a predator, dodging a predator, chasing a prey, or chasing a mate. So in anticipation, you start sweating to evaporate the sweat, to dissipate the heat. Now, if you, my argument was this lady who has this problem, this boy who had this problem, Capgras syndrome, visual centers were normal. He could perceive his mother clearly. It looks like my mother, he says. Looks like my mother, exactly like my mother, not like my father. Ability to perceive is the same. Unlike prosopagnosia, where he cannot even perceive his dad, right? But the wire that goes from there to the amygdala, gauging the emotional significance of his mother or tiger or father, that's cut by the accident. So he sees his mother, but there is no warm glow of affection or terror, depending on who your mother is. Okay? So as a result of this, he says, this can't be my mother. There's no emotions. It seems strange to you and me, but it's the only sense that he can make of that peculiar predicament he's in, of no emotional feelings towards that person then. So I can tell you a whole long story of Capgras syndrome, whole 3 lectures, but I won't. Variations on the same theme. Sometimes he duplicates himself. He says that mirror image, that boy is the real David. I'm not the real David. How do you know? Well, he gives you a long story about that. Remember, these people are not crazy. They're perfectly cogent, intelligent people. They have one specific delusion. Now you can test this theory very, very simply. My theory: putting electrodes on his palm, measuring the skin conductance, measuring the amount of sweat he produces. If you show anybody a shoe or a chair or a table, they will not sweat. If you show him a lion or a tiger or a pin-up, he'll start sweating. Any person here. And you even sweat when you start looking at your mother. You don't have to be a Jew or something. Anybody, look at your mother, you start sweating. Now this chap, when you put him on the table, on the computer screen, and measured his GSR, skin resistance, sweating, it had no sweating in response to his mother. Showing that this theory is on the right track. Now people have done fancy imaging and shown exactly the same thing. The theory is correct. The reason I mentioned this before as a prelude to the heart and all that, numbers and all that, is to show that in neuropsychology, which I represent, or neurology, you can take a bizarre, seemingly incomprehensible neurological syndrome where a guy claims his mother is an imposter. How do you even begin to explain this? And reject the Freudian account and come up with a simple anatomical explanation of what's going on in the brain, test it in 15 minutes and prove you're right. That's been our modus operandi for all the syndromes I'm going to talk about. You discover a syndrome or you resurrect a syndrome from the old literature, very strange, odd syndromes. Why does, first of all, is it real? Is he making it up? Sometimes patients just make up syndromes for insurance money. So you have to be clever in your design experiment to show that he's not making it up. A. B, he's not making it up. He's got a genuine syndrome. Why does he have it? What part of the brain is affected? Why does he manifest these curious symptoms? 3, so what? What do you care? Can you help him? 4, in addition to helping him medically, does it have any broader implications for understanding human nature, human consciousness, human mind, the last great frontier? These are 4 questions constantly looming in our mind when you see a patient with peculiar disturbances. When you make a mistake, wild goose chase, you see a patient who has peculiar symptoms and then fabricate it, you can spend a lifetime on these syndromes. There are bogus syndromes out there in the literature, which I've not bothered to debunk yet, but I will one day. But I'll mention one or two later in the lecture if you want. But for now, I'm going to continue the narrative on numbers. Okay, so that's an example. Another example is synesthesia. This goes back to the whole nature-nurture debate. Is the brain wiring hardwired by genome, with DNA molecule, present from birth, or maybe emerges later, but nevertheless specified early in the fetus by the genome, without any environmental effects? Or is it primarily programmed by the environment? Now, this is a silly question because any brain trait is a product of nonlinear interaction between these two, nature and nurture. To ask what proportion is this nature, what proportion that, largely a waste of time if you ask me. What I want to know is what the circuitry is doing. How is it working? Not how it originated. I'm studying a car, I want to know how the car works, carburetor, this, that, all that. Not with a Ford manufacturer or Toyota manufacturer. That's secondary for me, right? Okay. Now, so synesthesia, what is synesthesia? Francis Galton, Charles Darwin's first cousin, noticed that, okay, by way of prelude, I want to say numbers have been a preoccupation of humans since the dawn of history, written history. Something mysterious about numbers. Warren McCulloch, the famous American AI, guru of all AI, said, what is man that he might know number? What is a number that it might be known by a man? Cryptic remark, but it's sort of made the internet. I mean, it's sort of constantly quoted by my colleagues. So what are numbers and how are they represented in the brain? I'm not going to talk about that specifically, but allude to it tangentially, approach the problem tangentially. We're looking at patients who got, not patients, normal people with this peculiar condition of synesthesia. What is synesthesia? So can you study normal people or people with slight quirk in their personality or the vision to derive profound conclusions about all of human behavior, which touches on all aspects of human behavior? Like falling in love. How do you study synesthesia and falling in love? Or art or music, metaphor, poetry, studying synesthesia. What is synesthesia? Peculiar quirk in 1% of the population. It is claimed as 1 in 10,000 in the old days. Since we came along, it's 1 in 100. Very common. One of you may have it. But synesthesia is a condition where a person, whenever he sees a letter, number on the screen, on a sheet of paper, written on the sheet, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, in a black pen, he sees a color, it's tinged with a particular color. 8 is yellow, 9 is purple, 6 is chartreuse, 7 is indigo, 4 is green, 2 is yellow. Whole spectrum of colors. And you don't ever see one letter producing 2 colors, nor do you ever see you never see the same color represented by 2 numbers. So there's a 1-to-1 correspondence of a number and color, which is stable throughout life. You acquire it early in life. You ask the subject, when did you first start noticing this? All my life, doctor, since my childhood. But I never told anybody because they thought the thing was crazy. Or I didn't tell anybody because I thought everybody had it. Okay, so we said we go after these things. That's my quirk in my brain. Go after anomalies, oddities. And sometimes the oddities lead to a gold mine. Sometimes it's a waste of time, sometimes it leads to a gold mine. But I only tell you about the ones that are successful, right, obviously. Okay, so what's on synesthesia? Why do they see numbers as colored? There's several theories. One theory is that they see numbers as colored because they played with refrigerator magnets in childhood. In America they do, I don't know if they do in India. In childhood they give you magnets, 5 and 6 and 7, colored differently, just to make it more interesting for the child. Maybe people get stuck with these colors. That's why when you see numbers, some people see colors. Now this is bullshit, because we all play with magnets, but we don't all have synesthesia. Only 1% of us do. So what doesn't work for me. But still worth keeping in mind. Second theory, that these people are acid junkies or potheads, drugs, to themselves making something up. Or maybe they experience something, but they're on drug, high on drugs. This may be true because we find that it's much more common in Berkeley than at UCSD. In Berkeley, it's as you know, is notorious for drug use. And here, I think in India, you'd probably find much more common in IITs and Gindi engineering. Worth checking, making that prophecy here. Okay. Now, what causes this? So, now, that's not an explanation. That some neurotransmitters do mediate synesthesia. So, drugs can enhance the existing synesthetic propensity, already exists in your brain, that's enhanced by the drug, but it never actually causes it. You know, a normal person takes LSD, it does not cause synesthesia. Transiently, you see it and then goes away. So that can't be the explanation. Third explanation is that maybe they're making it up. Maybe they're crazy. That's never an explanation in science, especially in neurology and psychiatry. It's your burden of proof is on you to show that they're crazy. You can't just say they're crazy. Half the time it means you're not smart enough to figure out what's going on in them. If you do the right experiments, probe them accurately, then you discover what's causing it. That in turn leads you into a whole gold mine, new avenue of research. That's what happened with synesthesia. Okay, so how do you prove that they're really seeing it? That's the first question. Prove it's real. If it's real, so what? What's the broader significance? What's the mechanism in the brain? What can you do about it? All these questions. So, how do you prove it's real? What we did was an experiment. Next slide. Next slide. I think maybe I left it up. I'm sorry, I left it up. Okay. What we did, we showed it was real, meaning they really see the color, by having a matrix of colored fives, number five, on a sheet of paper, matrix of fives, digital fives, like a five. Embedded in there is a bunch of twos, which is a mirror reverse of the five in the digital format, mirror image. Normally, people can't tell where the twos are. They take a long time to detect the twos. The twos are arranged to form a triangle or a circle or a square. But you can't detect them unless you start counting one by one. This is a square, this is a square. I mean, this is number two, this is number two, this is number five. These people immediately see that five is red, 6 2 is green. Oh, I see a green 2 on a background of 5 reds. Forest of greens, I see a red 2. So they do it 3 times as fast as we do. If they're crazy, how come they're better than we are? This shows that they're really seeing those letters, colored, and they pop out from the background. This is another criterion psychology is used for. Whether something is processed early in vision or some high-level memory. Memory doesn't pop out like that. Perceptual phenomena pop out. So this proves that more or less it is a real phenomenon. Next question, where is it in the brain? Ed Hubbard and I, my graduate student Ed Hubbard, were struck by the fact that Stanislaus Dehaene studied number representation in the brain, and another guy, Dave Brang in our lab, and Tim Rickard in our lab, our center, have studied number representation using fMR, functional brain imaging. See what part of the brain lights up when you get somebody to do arithmetic. Or look at numbers. It turns out fusiform gyrus in the two hemispheres, what I told you already about prosopagnosia. Fusiform gyrus, tucked away in the inner surface of the temporal lobes, involved in graphemes, the shapes of numbers, relating them to the specific sound of the number produces, and the value, the ordinality, cardinality, and the value of the number. That's partly done higher up in the temporal lobe, not in the fusiform. Fusiform is concerned mainly with just appearance, physical appearance. Okay. You say, what's the evidence, Dr. Ramachandran? Well, you can do every imaging experiments. You also find synesthetes fall into 2 groups. There's the lower synesthetes or projectors, who, when they see the number shape is what gives them the color. 5, 6, 7 is blue, 8 is 9, is green, and all that. But you put Roman numbers. Imagine, synesthetes have been known for 100 years, since Galton, 1770, more than 100 years. But nobody tried a simple experiment. What if I show a Roman letter instead of no Roman number, instead of a Hindu-Arabic number? Anybody would have thought of doing that. They didn't. We thought of it, we showed them. The answer is they do not see colors. And that proves that it's not the concept of the number, but the visual appearance. Simple experiment, okay? We started there. Then we found only that's true only for 10% of synesthetes. 80-90% of synesthetes, the concept evokes the color as well, not just the appearance, both. Okay, so that confuses the matter, but we decided to focus our effort on the ones who see the color literally. You ask them, where do you see the color? The projectors will say, I see it on the inside the number, bounded by the number. Does it spill out? No. Some of them see a little bit spilling out, most of them see it stuck to the outline. The higher synesthetes say, I don't see it anyway, I see it in my mind's eye. But it's irrevocable and it's obstinate, And it's not as though I'm imagining it. So is it like when you think of Cinderella, you think of mice, you think of a chariot, it's the same as that, in memory. No, it's not like that at all. Here, when I see the 5, I always see the red. I can't think of something else even if I want to. It's not for negotiation. The cells of the brain are shouting 5, 5, 5. That's what I see. Now, okay, so we prove that this is real, and then you do brain imaging experiments on these people. You show them colored letters, colored numbers, color area lights up, and number area lights up. Those 2 areas there in the temporal lobes. You show them just black and white numbers. In normal people, only the black and white area lights up. Color area does not light up. So it's a synesthetes, both color area and number area light up. Or normal people show colored numbers. Clear proof that this is what's going on. This mingling of senses. Why does it take place? Because we think we came up with a theory called cross-modal activation. That is, in the early fetus in the brain, remember I said the brain has different parts doing different functions. A great deal of specialization, division of labor in the brain. The areas for seeing faces, the area for judgment, foresight, morality. There are areas for paying attention, for seeing stereo, seeing depth. Exquisite division of labor. But there's also interaction between these modules. Bear that in mind, okay? You'll see examples of that later as we go along. So, where was I? Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, so all of it in the fetal brain, the brain of the fetus, the excessive connection between different parts of the brain, tremendous redundancy of connections. As the fetus develops, there are genes which prune the excessive connections to create modular architecture of the adult brain. If the pruning gene goes mutates, the pruning is ineffective, doesn't occur. And it is expressed selectively by certain factors in specific brain regions. In the fusiform teres, you get a lower synesthete, number color synesthete. It occurs in the angular gyrus expression of the gene, mutation in the gene. Then you get a higher synesthete, conceptual synesthete, where the concept of the number doesn't interact with color. Is that clear? So 2 types of synesthete. The brain, the corresponding brain area that's affected is also different, lower and higher. Lower area projects to the higher area. So you can get to this degree of precision in delineating this disorder. Now you tell me immediately, Dr. Raman, so why should I care? Well, because I'll tell you why. Because synesthesia is 8 times more common. Can you go to the next slide? Again, showing you 2 areas. 8 times more common among poets, artists, and novelists in general. This brings us to the bridge to the arts. Remember, I said this has some connection with the arts and humanities. Although I'm not an archaeologist, I have some say in the matter. Okay, how is it connected? Because the product of the brain ultimately, art is a product of the brain. So is a number. So in that, at least in the trivial sense, they're related. But there's a deeper relationship. Poetry involves metaphor. So artists, poets, and novelists, what do they have in common, which engineers and scientists don't? Usually don't. They're all good at metaphor. What is a metaphor? Linking two seemingly unrelated things. Like it is the Juliet, it is Juliet. It is the sun, and Juliet is it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Who said that? The bard. That's much more evocative than saying Juliet is pretty girl, pretty woman. It is the east and Juliet is the sun. Immediately evokes metaphor. Evokes radiant like the sun, warm like the sun, nurturing like the sun. She is the center of the solar system, like the sun is the center of the solar system. She is the center of my solar system. You can make up anything you want. Shakespeare was a master at metaphor. Now, why metaphors work is a different question. We'll hold another lecture on that. Why not just say she's beautiful? Why say she's like the sun? Right? And I'll give you another example of a metaphor. Shakespeare, think of the example, exaggerating something. Exaggerating. Okay, before I get to that, why should it be more common among poets than novelists? This gene, pruning gene, defective pruning gene, if it's expressed in the fusiform teres, you get synesthesia. This quirk in the brain, colored numbers. It doesn't do any harm, it just sits there. It doesn't get weeded out through natural selection because it's harmless. But if it's expressed diffusely throughout the brain, what happens? Far-flung brain regions start interacting. This is the basis of metaphor, metaphorical thinking. Seemingly unrelated concepts and ideas which normally don't interact because of excessive connections start interacting, providing opportunity for metaphor and analogical thinking. It's the basis of creativity, art, poetry, all of that, fine arts. So, for example, when I say it's Julia to the sun, you don't say literally, you don't take it literally, you take the metaphorical meaning. Similarly, if I say to exaggerate something, how do you say to exaggerate? Give me a metaphor. Any one of you here in the audience, I don't get feedback, I guess. How do you say exaggerate something in a metaphorical form? Okay, I sat down and thought about it for half an hour. I could come up with one or two crummy ones. Most of my colleagues are not even as good as that. Shakespeare packed 4 or 5 into this one word, exaggeration. To gild the lily, to paint the lily, to gild refined gold, to smooth the ice, to add another perfume to the rainbow is wasteful and ridiculous excess. How did you think of that? Add another hue to the rainbow, paint the lily, add perfume to the violet. I forgot that one. Perfume to the violet, smooth the ice, adding another hue to the rainbow is wasteful and ridiculous. I bet he was a synesthete. I don't know for sure. I intend to find out, but I bet he was a synesthete. So they're able to make these connections which most of us can't do. Maybe this is true of great mathematicians like Ramachandran. I don't know. Okay. Next question about synesthesia. I've told you what's causing it. I've told you what probably causing it, gene mutations. I've told you so what. I told you so what. It's explaining something as simple as important as creativity in neural terms. So here I am starting with a quirk in some people in the population. 1% of the population, they see colored numbers or colored letters, taking on a journey, proving it's real, they're not confabulating, they're not making it up with a panel, doing experiments, psychophysical, psychological experiments, then doing brain imaging when necessary, then drawing the conclusion that this proves the excessive wiring, then drawing conclusions about Shakespeare metaphor, all the way from this quirk to Shakespeare. Now that's what I try to do with every syndrome I describe. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. But there are bogus syndromes, and I'll tell you about them in a minute. But let me give you another syndrome now. Now, that's about, I want to tell you about colorblind synesthesia, but switch to a different type of synesthesia, which is Galton's number lines, Galton's calendar lines. Galton was first cousin of Charles Darwin and a racist, by the way, but we'll forgive that for now. He believed that he polled a number of people just out of the blue and wrote to them saying, when you visualize numbers 1 to 1,000, 1 to 100, what do you see? Most of us see left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. These people, about 1% of the population again, see peculiar arrangements of numbers. You see those numbers, they're all from Galton. Like a twisted loop, a lot of loops and bends. These numbers, 1 to 3, are integers. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all sequential as they should be, but convoluted. Why? It's another lecture. Today I'll tell you about a related phenomenon, which he did not study as much. We studied it. That is calendar synesthesia. When I ask any one of you here to imagine or visualize a calendar in front of you, what do? You see a fuzzy sort of vague thing. I mean, you don't literally see a calendar. I mean, you basically, yeah, that's correct. You see, most of us, that's the subject, but most of us see a rectangular panel in front of you. Vague. With January left corner, February, March, April, May, June, July, December, the right lower corner. 98%, 95% of people say that. But the remaining 2% have all kinds of odd shapes of calendars. Like a hula hoop around their waist. There's a lady here, April, March, February, January. Or a vertical rectangle, simple vertical rectangle, or a tilted rectangle. Or a Lego going down and going 3D space like an L shape. Or an oval shape floating in front of them like an egg. Or a test tube, very common. A test tube outline. Why does this happen? This sort of thing, I absolutely love this kind of thing because it seems completely incomprehensible in the beginning. Then you come up with a simple explanation. That it has research on the brain and research on psychology and perception and neurology of the brain. It's like being a magician. The magician has very simple tricks up his sleeve. When you see his final act, it seems inconceivable. How could he have done this? And he reveals the truth. It's very simple, very often. Not always, but often. Okay, let's take this calendar synesthesia, call it calendar synesthesia. We can talk about it at length later, but just to give you just a gist of it, is it real? How do you know they're not making it up? Constant problem in our field. First thing somebody asks is he crazy? Or how do you know this one isolated case? How do you know it's true? But one isolated case often makes a point. In neurology especially. If I were to bring, give me an example, if I bring a pig here to the podium, you also, Rama brought a pig here. I wonder why. I said, this pig can talk. And you all get very skeptical and say, that's absurd, they can't talk. And I wave my wand and starts talking. What would you do? You said, my God, how's that possible? It's just talking. You're not going to say, show me another pig, then I'll believe you. That's what referees of scientific journals do. Okay? So there's a constant battle going on. But anyway, clear-cut observations on single patients are more important than statistical analysis of a large number of cases. That's the point I'm making. Okay, so now let's go back to the the calendar line. So how do you prove it's real? Okay, all you do is ask him to remember 100-year-old phenomenon, Galton. Nobody controversy about whether they're really seeing this thing, seeing the calendar in front of them. They say, "Oh, doctor, I see Helvetica font. I see Arial font. It's all in Arial font. Months of August, September, October, November. Each month has a box around it. They're arranged like a U shape, arranged like L shape. People thought they were crazy. What do you mean calendar shaped like an L? Why should it be? Where did they get this idea from? And they have boxes around them. And the font, why should it be one particular font, not another font? This is twilight zone of science, neuroscience. So I said, but I did a very simple experiment. I said, I want you to recite the months backwards, alternate months. If I do it to any one of you, you're very good at forward. January, March, May, August, whatever. I'm not very good at it, but when you go forward, it's very easy. Going backwards is horrendous. 3 times is slow. Even January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, July, June, backwards is slow. Because backwards and forward, you are doing it algorithmically. He's doing it off a sheet of paper. He's got a mental. He's seeing, literally seeing, according to him, the calendar in front of him with a convoluted shape. He just reads off like you would. If I give you a piece of paper with the numbers printed and ask you to read it backwards, it's very easy. You just read it backwards as fast as he could. He doesn't need the sheet of paper because he uses his mind and projects it on the wall, on the empty space, and reads it off. So in one 5-minute experiment, we demolish 100 years of controversy, claiming they're making it up. They're not making it up, they see it. Now, other ways of showing they're seeing it. Can you have the next slide? Always good to do an overkill in science. This is a woman who sees a hula hoop around her body. April, May, June, and all that. And it's very interesting. In her case, some of the months are obscured by her back. It goes behind her back. Why in heaven's name would it do that? And we've seen 2 or 3 people like that, whether January, February, or March, April are behind the back. Rest of the calendar here. I said, how do you know it's behind my back? I can feel it, sir. I can feel it. When you look behind, oh, no, now I can see it. Now, this is all science fiction, by the way. It sounds like science fiction. It's absolutely true. I thought I would just titillate your imagination a little bit, okay? Next slide. Okay, now why do you map calendars? Where do you have a calendar line? Forget about a twisted line. Even normal people have a calendar line, right? An approximate calendar line, grid. Where do you have that? Why not represent it in an abstract form, calendar? The reason is the brain is highly conservative. Biology is conservative. It uses pre-existing structure for novel functions. By kludge and by happenstantial, opportunistic evolution of the brain structures. So if the structure is already in use for something, you can borrow it for a completely novel function. Instead of you can't start creating a clock in your brain. It's impossible. So you say, I take space, map time onto pre-existing space to create a graph. I'll represent time as space. I won't bother to represent time, create another module for measuring time. This sort of opportunistic behavior is very common in biology, especially in neuroscience. So therefore you get this mapping of time onto space, you get a calendar. And if the mapping goes awry, something goes wrong, some glitch, maybe a hardware glitch, gives peculiar manifestations, like an L shape or a U shape. It's a tentative working hypothesis. So we have shown that it's a real phenomenon because we're backwards is much lower. Now the question is, where is it happening? And why? Okay. This is evolutionary implications. This is again showing the ear, your own ear. By the way, you got these three little bones in your ear to amplify sound. If the sound waves come in, you match the impedance with the liquid inside your ear. To do that, you use three little bones which are articulated in such a way that amplify the sound. Now, do you know that those three little bones belong to your jawbone ones? The reptilian jaw had three bones. It swallowed huge prey and hibernated for months, digesting the food. To swallow huge prey, it has a multi-hinged jaw. So it needs multiple bones. But when you became a mammal, you stood upright, more or less, not like humans, but not crouched on the ground. And then metabolic rate went higher, you just started eating frequently. So you needed to chew food. So you used the dentary to chew food. The remaining two bones were pushed backwards into the ear. They're ideally located then for amplifying sound transmitted by the jaws of the reptile sitting on the ground or from the air. So all this happened. Now you're using your jawbone to hear sounds. That's what I'm getting at. No engineer in his right mind would predict the design. But because evolution is the way it happens, opportunistic nature of evolution, that's what happened. This time again, this has happened in evolution, with brain modules. Different brain modules borrowing each other's functions. That's what happened in the calendars. Next slide, please. I'm almost finished now. Another young lady in our department who's worked with us, very, very smart postdoc, undergraduate rather. She has a calendar in front of her like a U. Can you see the U there? U-shaped calendar. October, November, December. Now when she comes to the right side, she says, "Doctor, I can't read the things on the right. They're a bit fuzzy. These are all in Arial font and they're all clearly January, February, March, April, May. Something funny about them." I said, "Look, lady, can you go behind your own calendar?" Then she laughed and said, "What do you mean? It's in front of me." I said, "Pretend you're seeing from behind, just walk behind it." She thought it was a strange request, but she obliged. She said, "Oh my God, I'm able to do that." A little bit of practice. She went behind her mental calendar. Now you start thinking about how Ramachandran was thinking, went behind a mental calendar. She said, "Oh my God, I can read those months now. Now I see why it's this mirror reverse when I was in front, because there's a twist, like a Mobius strip, there's a twist. Now I come behind it, I can read them because they're no longer mirror image." She was not making this up, absolutely true that she's seeing this. Why there should be a twist, why there should be a ribbon in her brain in the first place, why should it be twisted in the second place, why is it that twisted more readable, seen from another place in the brain, which is merely an information processing device. There's no real objects in the brain. It's a complete mystery, which we're waiting to solve. All of this we have seen. Next slide, please. Various team members, Ed Hubbard, Kakawan, Sarush, who we've talked to, Eric Alshulam, other colleagues who are working on this project. Next slide. Okay, what's going on in the brain? Now, how do you create a calendar? You have a sense of time, sense of place, sense of importance of various events, serial processing, sequence, idea of sequence. All this is required for a map, right? And guess where that happens? The one structure ideally the two structures in the brain ideally located for this. Angular gyrus in the left hemisphere, also called IPL, inferior parietal lobule, has connected in the left parietal lobe. It's connected with everything in the brain, all the other areas. Frontal structures, temporal lobe structures, memory, occipital lobe structures, vision. Convergence of all these inputs occurs in the angular gyrus. Damage to the angular gyrus causes loss of sequentiality. You can still remember things. I had puri urlakranga in the morning, I had masala dosa in the afternoon, but he gets completely mixed up, unlike us. We get mixed up too, but he gets completely mixed up. And this happens in dyslexic children to some extent, but especially patients damaged to the angular gyrus as adults. So the idea of sequence is there represented in the angular gyrus of left hemisphere. In addition to sequence, left-right, they get confused about left and right, these patients. They can't tell left from right, which is important for a map. If you don't know, that's the first step, right? What's left, what's right, what's north, what's south, east, and west. They get confused, muddled. Okay, keep that in mind. There's a band of fibers that goes from there called the inferior longitudinal fasciculus, we'll see in a minute. band of fibers that goes to the hippocampus, which is the bottom of the temporal lobes. Hippocampus is involved in memory. That's what people thought. It's involved in memory primarily. For example, dogs manifest hippocampal ability when they pee in the lamppost. Territorial marking. So in mammals, territorial marking, territory, finding a way around, navigation, finding a mate, dodging a predator, all smell a great deal more than us. They're well-developed hippocampus. They study hippocampus in rats too. The three-dimensional maps of the underground pathways they live in. And if you go to rat hippocampus and record from cells there, which I didn't do, unfortunately, group in London, O'Keefe and Nedell and others, they studied these cells in the hippocampus in an awake mouse walking around with no anesthetic, no pain. They make a hole in the skull painlessly, put a needle, electrode, record from cells in the hippocampus. Question, what does the hippocampal cell do when the rat wanders around? When the rat goes to one particular corner, one particular cell fires like crazy. Fires. They call it the play cell, because you bring the rat, put it somewhere else, and he comes back to the same location, even though he's pointing in a different direction, same cell fires. So it's not just simple visual stimuli. Something complex computation about location is being conducted by the brain to locate, like in a GPS system. Where are you? Like you have all the experience of waking up in the middle of the night in a foreign hotel in Dubai or Hong Kong, and you're completely disoriented for a minute. What is it? Where am I? Then you realize you're in Hong Kong, concierge desk is over there, I'm here, restaurant is over there, the bar is over there, important, all of that map out in your head. That's hippocampal place cells, that's what they're doing. Then the grid cells, which have a more abstract map, viewed from the sky, where are you? In that location. So combining grid cells and place cell output, you determine, connected with the angular data sequence, you determine your location in space and time. And that's the calendar. So you got the circuitry. If it's damaged, you get calendar agnosia. And these people enhance these fiber cuts. That's why they're very good at it. They actually literally see the calendar, not merely talk about it. Now, if you project the calendar on top of a grid, produce vertical stripes, black and white stripes. You tilt black and white stripes. I'm talking normal people, all of you here. If I tilt black and white stripes, and then if I put a vertical line on this tilted, if I just draw a vertical line on tilted stripes, guess what happens? The vertical line tilts in the opposite direction. It's called tilt contrast. The brain always processes contrast, information-rich regions of the visual space. Guess what happens when he projects his vertical test tube on tilted stripes? The test tube tilts in the opposite direction. So his imaginary visual calendar is affecting his actual perception of real visual stimuli, combining with them. If he looks at finely spaced lines, he sees moire fringes. How many of you know what moire fringes are? If you take two gratings of different frequencies, superpose them, and move them around, you see beautiful fringes produced by interference. He sees moire fringes with his internal mental calendar superimposed on a real black and white stripe on the screen. This shows how real the simulation is. The brain is creating all the time virtual reality simulation of what you're imagining, what you're thinking about, using those simulations to construct the appearance of the world. I'm going to go another 5 minutes and we're done. Okay. To conclude, what part of the brain is involved? I already told you these structures are involved. And next slide. Okay. It turns out, one final twist to this, cells in the hippocampus, in addition to the play cell, grid cell, there are cells for personality. Can you believe this? There are cells which fire only when there are synesthetes who talk about every number having a personality. 7 is a crotchety old man. He doesn't deserve to be around. He's mean to everybody. And he's very jealous and very selfish. On the other hand, number 6 is very amiable, affable, humanitarian, blah, blah, blah. You think they're crazy. You see this time and again in synesthetes, and nobody studied it carefully. We decided to study it. We said, simple thing, what if you put 2 people next to each other? One of them, the crotchety old man, is very lustful, mainly full of lust. He doesn't even know what love is. The other guy, on the other hand, is very opposite. He's very calm, considerate, very affectionate, but no love, no lust coming in there. If you put them next to each other, guess what the synesthete sees? She sees them combining to create romantic feelings. So romance is lust plus affection. These types of interactions, you see, the brain is full of these interactions. We're just not exploring the code used by the brain to represent the external world. So something as abstract as love, the neurons are expressing, or personality. And lastly, the neuron also, the place neurons, I told you, hippocampal place neurons represent distance in the map of the world, location in space. Those neurons also represent distance, emotional distance with another individual. So here is a neuron that evolved for spatial distance, not being utilized by the brain for a completely different function. I am close to that person. Metaphor is derived from the same neurons that represent physical distance. Or you draw a line around you, metaphorical line. A literal line becomes a metaphor. Don't transgress that line. I have my boundaries, sir. This is my first date. I don't want you to cross those boundaries. Or Lakshmana, Rama drawing a line around Sita. Lakshmana drawing a line around Sita. Don't ever cross that line. Of course, he made a mistake. So this is very deeply embedded in our psyche, concept of outline. Guess what happens if I put a line in between 9 and 7? 9 is this lustful guy. 7 is affection. Put them you go near each other, they become romantic love. You put a line in between them, they stop interacting, completely zero. Just a line drawn between them, complete zero. We do simple experiments, explore the brain's code in representing the world, social world, material world, and answer questions which have until recently been the province of philosophy. And of course, that's about mathematics. I hope to talk to you about Indology and all that, but you've got other scholars who are going to give you fascinating lectures. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right now?
No. Okay. Thank you all for attending this first Indology conference. We've just had 2 lectures by 2 great scholars, Dr. Nagaswamy and Dr. Ramachandran. We are now in the question and answer session. I'd first of all like to apologize for some of the technical glitches that we encountered early on in the broadcast, and some that cropped up once and now during the broadcast. We are trying a lot of experiments. So the online conference is an experiment, the Indology conference is an experiment, having people from 3 different places is an experiment, these topics are an experiment. So some of them, I think we've taken some wonders of technology for granted. But I would also like to thank Dr. Nagaswamy and Dr. Ramachandran for joining us live from their respective homes in Besant Nagar and in California. We've had some very interesting questions come up on. I'll first pose a question from Professor Thomas Levy, who's a colleague of Dr. Ramachandran. The question is to Nagaswamy. He says it's a fascinating lecture. Regarding the earliest coinage, is there evidence for local development of this industry? Is there the coins technology come from Greeks and Romans, or did we mint them even before that? Dr. Nagaswamy, sir, can you hear me?
Earliest coinage, is there evidence for local development of the industry?
I don't think local development, which part of locality? Is it Tamil Nadu or India or West Asia or Central Asia? What do you mean by local development?
I think his question is whether coin technology is something that that was invented outside India, perhaps by the Romans or the Greeks, and then they brought it in, because we see coins mostly only from the Bactrian, that period, 3rd century onwards, from Maurya kingdom afterwards.
No. We have got silver benchmarked coins, which were used as a dakshina, and they have symbols impressed on them, punched on them, and they are mostly in silver. They are found all over from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and also Assam to what you call Punjab. And they are dated to 6th century BC, much earlier than Bactrian coins. So, and second point was that in early times, they not necessarily issued minted coins, but they had globular gold or silver, which they called the karanji, like a karanji seed, and that was a legal tender. But later on, different types of minting, portrayal, written legends, and all came into being gradually. So, as you have it in Bactrian coin, Indo-Bactrian coin, Indo-Greek coin, you have also got coins here in northwestern India, around Punjab, and there are other places like Awardee and others who have issued coins. So it's a gradual one. Mutual impact, mutual inspiration is always there.
Okay.
But they are not real. For example, you don't have much Bactrian coins in Tamil Nadu, but you have them in Saurashtra and Punjab region and so on. So it depends upon.
Okay. So that so you showed, so that is very interesting. So you showed us some coins in Karur, the Chera coins presumably, and then there are Pandya and Chola coins perhaps at that time. We also found Roman coins as far south as Karur and Mamallapuram and several parts of Tamil Nadu. But haven't, from Arthashastra to Silapadikaram and Manimegale, we have had interaction, literary and other cultural interaction between North and South India. But isn't that surprising then that Gupta coins or Bactrian coins are not found in the south and Chola coins are not found in the north, or are they found in the north?
Essentially, South India, particularly Tamil Nadu, was agricultural. It was not in trade and commerce. So they mainly used grains and barter. And minted coins are used when the merchants used to travel here and there, and so they come here and they go there and so on. But we don't have gold coins or silver coins in early period of Tamil Nadu. We get gold coins only from the time of the Cholas, somewhere about 9th, 10th century. No gold coin from Pallava period. We have some silver coins, copper coins, but silver square coins punched, they are found all over India. All over India, I mean, also in Tamil Nadu, in West Coast, in Kerala, and so on. So probably it shows the activity of the merchant community in those ancient times, probably through land route from North India to Northwestern India to Bactria and so on. But Roman coins came through the sea route, not later. So all the Bactrian coins are all early, Roman coins are all late. So this is the situation that we have. And any future findings will change the ideas, change the concepts and so on.
Okay. Swaminathan Sundaresan asks, what was the reason for having Greek inscriptions on one side and Hindu gods and inscriptions on the other side? Were these coins only used in India, or were they used in Greece as well? Have they found such coins in Greece?
Well, look at this coin, not one or two, nearly 32 kings issued coins, bilingual coins. And these are there from Punjab to going to Bactria to Indo-Greek right up to Alexandria. They have been found.
Right.
On the one side, you have Greek letters, Greek portraits. And on the other side, you have Indian god, Indian writing, Indian language. So now the scholars identify that there was a specific Prakrit literary and documentary evidence beyond what they call Takshila, beyond Gandhara, and so they call it Gandharan Prakrit. What an area that they have covered. Prakrit has covered right up to lower part of Russia. Tashkent, and it went into China, the Silk Route and so on. So this coin gives us an idea into the migration of culture. And after all, when we come to the coin being issued, this for the common man to use it. He is using it, he is having it outside Greek and Prakrit. So the spread of Indian culture, literature, God, goddesses, and the philosophy, and even the art, they have all traveled, and these are evidenced by these coins. That's the
So
importance of this.
right. So it's very interesting. So it's not just the economic aspect of it. There is the social, cultural exchange also that the coins tell us. Not just the technology. Dr. Ramachandran, I have a question for you. Your examples from neurology are about learning about the normal brain from symptoms exhibited by unusual patients. We say, there's a common parody that, exception proves the rule, but that's not really the case in science. Exception actually overturns what, it creates a new paradigm.
Good way to put it.
But in your particular case, you're learning about normality from, exceptions.
Mhm.
Is this paradigm applicable to other fields of science, and could it be applied in Indology in any way? Is that
I think so.
archaeology?
I think I'm sure that that's true. That it applied in any science. It's especially true in neurology and psychiatry, where single cases are often very instructive. For example, all the great syndromes in neurology, colossal syndrome,
Right.
what happens in the corpus callosum, aphasias, language disturbances, split brain syndrome, amnesia caused by hippocampal damage. They found that the entire brain, the only part that's directly involved in memory, structure called the hippocampus, the base of the brain, base of the temporal lobes. That structure is damaged, you can no longer form new memories. Now that's been vindicated by a lot of single unit studies, recording from cells in the brain, showing that these cells record place. Where is the animal standing? The cell will fire. Left corner. Another location, another cell will fire. So the entire world is mapped around that room in those cells. So what I'm saying is, in neurology, a single case can be very instructive. Give you an analogy. If I bring a pig to the audience, did I tell you about this in my lecture?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but go ahead again. That's a good example.
Okay, so you bring a pig to the audience, to the podium, and I tell you, look, this pig can talk. You all are very skeptical and you say, that's absurd, how can it talk? Then I wave my wand and it starts talking. What are you going to say? You're going to say, my God, how is that possible? It's very interesting. You're not going to say, there's only one pig, show me another pig.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that's the general answer to your question.
The unusual. Okay. I think some people are wondering how some of this brain research applies to the theme of the conference in terms of Indology. I had a weird thought about your comments on synesthesia and the patients. Do you think so? Dr. Nagaswamy knows this too. That the Indus script still remains a puzzle. It's not been broken, though. There are different groups that have made different claims on it. Do you think it will someday take some synesthesia, a conference of synesthesia patients to crack that or something like that? Is that beyond the realms of absurdity?
No, it's not. We know so little about the brain that nothing is beyond the realm of. So yeah, that's entirely possible. So is this related to the Buba Kiki question? No.
No, this is just I'm talking about how you're talking about neurology and some of the aspects of the brain, and how the brain perceives art, or the brain has unusual perceptions.
Yes.
And how it could apply perhaps to Indology, because I think some people have a question of how it is relevant to this conference as a topic of research or a topic of a lecture. So that's kind of where I was trying to connect that.
I understand. Only thing I can think of is that India, especially Indians, have an obsession with numbers for the longest time.
Right.
Apart from the Greeks in the ancient times, Indians become obsessed with numbers, and it's just something special about the Indian brain that makes it obsessed. I don't think so. It's a cultural exposure, discoveries happened in India.
Yeah.
So certain period of time. The number system was invented. Once the number system was invented, the place value, the invention of zero and all that, math really took off on its own.
Right.
So people actually could come up with theorems and all that, and then the rest is history. So preoccupation with numbers is certainly an Indian trait, and then this led me to be curious about how the brain represents numbers. So what part of that's the only link I can think of. But you're very, very, very broad in our outlook, as you know, as a society. It doesn't have to be always on the target right on Indology, but something even tangentially related is quite interesting. You know, it makes sense. If it makes sense. Why do we use base 10 where the Sumerians used 60?
Yeah.
Good question. Why did we pick 10? Why did they pick 60, right? I mean, these types of questions. So, other than that vague link between those two, there's no specific connection.
Okay. So let me ask you both a question questions to the that pertains to this entire topic. We've had amazing discoveries in the past. You mentioned William Jones. You mentioned John Key and other and Dr. Nagaswamy. Of course, is a lot of his research has been based on wonders in the past. Does Indology have a bright future? Does it have a significant future? We have excavated an enormous number of places. What are we likely to dig up in the future that we haven't done in the last couple of centuries? What literature can we find, cross compare that we haven't done in the last few hundred years? Dr. Ramachandran, you go first, and then Dr. Nagaswamy can answer.
Yeah, I think there's tremendous potential for discovery, even though it's been an active area of research for a while. Given the amount of research that goes into Sumerology or Egyptology, compare the research enterprise in Egyptology or Sumerology, compare with Indology. There's much more work done on those two topics. There's Western preoccupation with Sumerology and Egyptology. So there's plenty of work to be done. Dr. Nagaswamy, one of the pioneers, I'm sure will agree with that point of view. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he'll concur that the excavation, underwater excavation, for example, needs to be done. It always comes to, they started off and then it comes to a stop. I don't know why.
Like he's done one, I think, on Pumbuhar, underwater excavation. I think Dr. Nagaswamy supervised one, I think.
Oh, okay. I'd be interested to hear more about it because, it always stops at a certain, they don't go deeper. Now with Dr. Levy will tell you, Dr. Levy and I have talked about this. You can get underwater exploring, remote exploration with robots underwater for $90,000. You can hire it for 6 months or a year with their own technician coming and installing it. So the budget of $50,000, 25 lakhs, you can go in and explore all of Pumbuhar with this underwater roving machine with beautifully high fidelity images. It's a matter of groups getting together. So UCSD has to get scripts. UCSD and Thomas Levy and us and you will all get together and do the underwater exploration over there.
Okay.
It could not have been done 10 years ago. They're sending divers with cameras, nothing, very vague images. So with this new technology, you can do Zoom. Next conference, Zoom. Next conference, Zoom. We have it underwater to here. Okay, how about that?
Underwater camera directly, broadcasting on Zoom. Okay, yeah. I see what you mean.
Exactly.
Dr. Nagaswamy, does Indology, do you agree with him? Is there a bright future for Indology? Is there new researchers? He's still growing strong at 90, so.
You see, nothing is static in this world. It is all continuous. You see, take for example, I give you a very interesting inscription from Cambodia, where one of the acharyas who guided the ruling king to build a beautiful temple, he says, Nana Bhasha Lipijnaha. He was a master of different languages and different script in Cambodia. And this is written in a script which is derived from Brahmi, which went from here to there. But now, writing is lost. You are no more interested even in the rural area. They will start doing it in the laptop. No more writing. Writing is gone. But there is an evolution and it is a continuity. At no point of time it stops. And this may take a different form, different mode, and different expression. So there is no question of Indology, future or ancient. It is continuous and it will go on. And I think since the world has come together closer, our studies are now going towards not individual regions, but all regions have to be taken into consideration. And in the chronological setting, we have to study it. And in that way, Indology has still got a great future.
Can I add a comment to that?
Yes.
I agree entirely with that. What I want to say is it's very important to inspire young people. Tell them, show them how interesting and fascinating Indology is. It's like being a detective. Cracking all those ancient scripts. If you read them, you're riveted. It's better than any Sherlock Holmes novel. I can tell you that when I first read that stuff.
Right.
So this is not true just of us. It's true of any young person who's interested in ideas, history of ideas, where human beings come from, where our minds come from, how they work. It's inevitable that they'll get excited if you teachers like Nagaswamy, yourself, and all of you. It's a good thing we started this because hopefully it'll inspire people to take up archaeology not merely as a hobby, but as a profession. And even if they don't take it as a profession, amateur archaeology is outstanding. One of the few areas of science where amateurs can actually make contributions. Going back to Schliemann of Troy, saying as a child of 10, he told his father, I'm going to find Troy. Father said, no, that's a mythical city, it doesn't exist. Schliemann said, no, I'm going to find it. And by God, he went and found it. Now, there's some confusion about the detail exactly where it is, but roughly where it is, he discovered, right? So that sort of thing has to happen again and again. In Indian archaeology, it's going to happen. So that's my dream. Hopefully it'll happen within our lifetimes.
Okay. Let me, on the Cambodia, he brought up Cambodia. So, Doctor, let me ask Dr. Nagaswamy this. Why is it that we have only, coins from the West? We have a lot of architecture, monuments, temples, inscriptions to the east of India, Cambodia, Thailand, Southeast Asia, Thailand, Burma, all the way up to even China. There is the Hindu temples, the Japanese culture has spread. But the coins seem to come, substantially in certain parts only. We have not had coins, we must have surely had mercantile and other connections even earlier. Why haven't they not found that? And if the Bactrian and other kings were, trading, dominating the northern part of it, and the Guptas were also there, why haven't Indian coins traveled west? Why haven't we found them in Egypt or Mesopotamia and so on?
This is a difficult question to answer. Now, we have a large number of coins in the Western Asia, which are in bilingual and which portray figures. And they are all there between, say, around 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD, something like that. But during that period, there was a tremendous trade between China through the Silk Route to right up to Macedonia and Italy and other places, and but that was not so much down south. It picks up after the 1st, 2nd century AD when you get the Romans. They come through the sea route, the contact becomes more, and you get more coins here. So the main trade that was centered around in the, say, 3rd century BC to 3rd century CE is in the Central Asian part, Punjab region, Kashmir, and even right up to Saurashtra and Gujarat. This influenced the Satavahanas down south, and it didn't have so much influence on the Tamil kings in further south. But it picks up later, after 2nd century AD or so, that you have this coin. They are trying to use it now. 2nd century AD onward, they are trying to use it. Not much. But later it becomes so much in the time of the Cholas. Gold coins, silver coins, copper coins. And also they used, along with it, the globular gold currency. So it all depends upon the local conditions and mainly through trade. And that was not so much in the south, in Tamil Nadu.
Right. I think there is much scope for studying the history of economics and how economics developed in India, especially in the south. I think that's not been paid much attention to. I think that's kind of what he's also pointing to. Dr. Ramachandran, there's a question. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
After that, the whole thing changes in the West Asia, It changes, the whole thing changes in West Asia. It's not so together. Chinese trade was tremendous. They used to come and go right up to Italy and the West Asia, Silk Route, and it came right up to Kashmir and so on. But Where is it outwards? Nothing. It has become, the religious system changed there, and kinds of different issues and powers. And so the contact has shrunk. Religious systems have separated man from this side and that side. That was not so much. But before that, they all felt one and they moved freely, and Indian gods were respected. Indian gods were prayed, especially offered worship for preservation of act, civilization, proper life, cultured life. But that all changes, during the centuries and everything. But it continues. We have to study it in the context of the whole area, not in one area.
So, Dr. Ramachandran, there is a question, to your science. I don't know if it relates to Indology, but does synesthesia stay with the person for life, or can it disappear as a person ages? Is it possible to develop it later in life?
Let me make 2 points. I'll answer that question briefly. Basically, you stay with it for life. You're not born with it, but very early in life, you notice it. As far back in childhood as you can remember, you notice it, and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. Minor changes may be there, but by and large, it remains the same. With regard to the other question about Indology and Neurology, one of the things, basically, science is driven by passion and curiosity. And that's going to be the same, whatever area you dabble in. That's what defines the scientific enterprise. So when I saw this work being done in India and the paucity of data and the excitement of Indology, then it was contagious. For example, I went to Hampi about 2-3 years ago. Wonderful place. Dr. Levi also went there. He was equally impressed with Hampi. And then there's the mythology of Hanuman. Various parts, where he fought Vali, Sugriva fought Vali, and where he was a child as a Hanuman, all of that. Very precisely, they'll tell you this is where it happened, and with great confidence. A lot of this is mythology and mumbo jumbo. But I can't help wondering, if you take the Ramayana in different parts of India, there's concordance of the timing and date. They went from the river in the north, Sarayu River, they came down to south, and then they saw Hanuman. Then he went to the Sunset Mountain, and then the timing and sequence is nearly identical. How is it possible that independent regions, isolated from each other, independently evolve the same story with exact details? This suggests to me that there's some truth to this. But what it is, we're not talking about some mythical stuff, the historical aspects of it. What happened in Hampi? It's a fascinating question to anybody. You can be a doctor, you can be an engineer, you can be anybody. If you're not curious about that, something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Only thing
I think there are
political issues. We don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, there are significant. There seem to be some significant discontinuities in either in the history or in events. Some of them may be natural, some of them may be political, and so on. Mm-hmm. So I think that goes to a larger topic, I think, to be discussed. So the question there I had was, yes, sir.
Chinese travelers have been coming to India via what you call the Central Asia, and then they come to Kashmir, and then they went to what you call South India. They went right up to Sri Lanka. They have been going there, and also we have continuous stream of travelers from China cutting across Tibet and coming to Nalanda and other places. And they are all Sanskrit scholars who came here. You can't imagine that Fahian who came from China to Tamil Nadu. He came across Himalayas walking by foot, and he was a great scholar, having gone right up to Sri Lanka, where he stayed for some time and went back. And he went back through the same route, taking away many of the Sanskrit copies of the Sanskrit text and translated it into China. So we have in 3rd century, in 4th century, 5th century, 6th century travelers coming all the way from this. Occasionally also probably through Burma and sea route around Malaysia and so on. We can't imagine there has been such a close contact in those days. Now we are talking about languages and people and difference and so on. But there has been such a contact, respect for man to man, understanding knowledge system was greatly, you have what you call Gnostic in Western Asia. You have, before the arrival of these Christians, you have the Gnostics who emphasize knowledge system. And you have in Sumeria, you have got a treaty between Hittite and Mitanid, praying for Indra, Mitra, Surya, Varuna, and there are so many other sections in which Vedic language, Vedic letters have been used there. As early as 1283 BC. And what is the prayer? Please help us to maintain law and order. Please help us. Let the society be calm and quiet, not fighting between each other. For that purpose, they have worshipped Mitra and Arna. Mitra is the protector of law, right from the time of Vedas. So there has been respect, no narrow system. But now we are in a broader area of the world, but our knowledge system is going down. We have to be. There is only man and man.
That's a very good point. I think I could perhaps restate it as saying that Fahian or any of the scholars even before him, or they represent the aspect of globalization long before internet conferences became a reality. So that's a very interesting aspect of cultural interchange and so on. We have come up on 10 p.m. We are
Nagarjuna, there is an inscription of 2nd century AD. One Buddhist lady, merchant lady, has given a gift to Achanda Acharya. He is a Buddhist Acharya. He was teaching Buddhism to people from Taxila, people from Gandhara, people from China, and people from Tosala in northern part of India, and Damilas from Tamil Nadu in Telugu country. So all these people have come together. And what are the exchange? What are the language of exchange? Study. Sanskrit. So there has been all these contact, interactions.
And on, I don't know why Dr. Ramachandran felt, he's back here. Okay, and I think on that very optimistic and very positive note, perhaps we can bring the proceedings of the day to a close. Thank you both for very wonderful lectures. Thank you, Dr. Nagaswamy, for staying up so late to take the questions. Dr. Ramachandran for getting up so early to take these questions. We hope to, and thank you all for all of the members of the audience for staying on with this fairly, knowledgeable and very scholarly presentation by two great scholars. We have 6 more days of such programs coming up. We'll hopefully resolve most of our technical glitches by tomorrow. So I wish you all good night and good morning, and I hope you join us tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.